Hello everybody, my name is Ratnos, and welcome to the first week of patch 9.1. Obviously there's a lot of stuff this week, and also a lot of stuff that is coming in the next few weeks, but I figured I'd make this video as my This Week in Mythic Plus video to let you know what is changing this week versus what's changing next week versus what's changing the week after that. Because I've seen a lot of confusion, a lot of different questions about this topic. So first off, let's talk about the affixes. MDT no longer has the affix calendar. Nobody does. Right now, the affixes are Bursting, Storming, Fortified, Prideful. So yes, Prideful is still here. This is the last week of Prideful. Next week will be the first week of Tormented. And you'll notice that combination of affixes occurred nowhere on the calendar before. So we are heading into completely uncharted waters, basically. We don't know what the affixes are going to be for the next, presumably, 11 weeks, and then in 12 weeks we will get to Bursting, Storming, Fortified, Tormented, is the best guess that anybody has right now. So, those affixes, not the end of the world. We are in the world now with the nerf to Storming, so it'll go away as soon as it hits one person, and they move a lot slower and more predictably. The other dungeon changes that have gone through have been the specific mob and boss nerfs. So, particularly with Prideful still being around, this should be a pretty good week for a lot of those bosses. Also it's Fortified and not Tyrannical, but bosses like Amarth, like Crixus in Sanguine Depths, have gotten... There's been a set of nerfs to many of the more difficult bosses in dungeons, especially the ones that occur earlier in dungeons rather than later in them, which is going to help us when Tormented comes around, because... we will be less powerful early in the dungeon than at the end of the dungeon. But this week, those are still in play for our Prideful keys, helping out as well. But the scaling changes and stuff haven't happened yet. So the auto attack damage nerf that came in, the 10% less damage from auto attacks, is in. But the general scaling up of the dungeons, 35% more damage and 39% more health, hasn't come in yet, which means that a 15 key this week is roughly as difficult as a 15 key was last week. But next week, a 15 key will become as difficult as roughly like a 19 was this week, because the scaling is going to come into play. Now, when this happens, most of the time what they do is they lower our keystones by about 4 or 5 levels that week, instead of the usual 0 or 1 that it gets lowered these days, right, when you open your Great Vault. So, for Mythic Plus this week, the only real thing you might wish to do is, if you have a certain keystone level you would like to start with next week, which is the first week of Tormented, then do a key 4 or 5 levels higher than that level this week. So people will say, like, oh, do a 20, do a 21 to get a 15 out of your box next week. Bear in mind that, we don't have a bunch of extra gear right now that we will get over the next few weeks. So if you'd rather just push the keystone levels up next week or the week after instead, that's totally reasonable. But if you're super min-maxing, and if you're trying to value your time in future weeks more highly than you value your time in this week, because you can't go to the raid yet and everything this week, then that's a good idea, right? It's a good idea to go and do the highest level key you can get your hands on. We haven't got confirmation on exactly how many key levels it's going down. That might be something that's forthcoming at some point this week, but as of right now, we don't know. Now, what level key are you going to want to do next week? Because the answer to that might inform your decision as to what key you're going to try and get out of your box. Well, usually what they do is they cap the item level of end of dungeon rewards that you can get during Heroic Week, which is next week. So usually it's, my guess is going to be 226 will be the cap for end of dungeon rewards next week, and then that will go up to 236 on Mythic Week, is my guess. There's a little bit of wiggle room there, maybe 3 item levels either way, maybe even a little bit more, depending on how they decide to do it. But there is still a reason to do 15 next week, and in fact to do 10 15s, which is the Great Vault. So if you're trying to set yourself up to open a Great Vault on Mythic Week, the Great Vaults you open on Mythic Week will be fully eye-leveled based on how you did on Heroic Week. So you can get up to 252 loot out of your Great Vault if you can do a 15 key on Heroic Week. And you get 15 keys on Heroic Week, either by pushing your key up during Heroic Week, or by doing like a 19 or a 20 this week. So that's kind of the 3-week plan to get yourself a nice Great Vault in 14 days' time. It sort of starts this week, but again, nothing that you can do this week is necessary. None of it's mandatory. You can do any part of it that you want next week instead as well, and it'll just cost you time next week. Or you could just, do somebody else's key and it didn't cost you anything. So that's the only thing that really there is to do in Mythic Plus this week. The item level rewards that you're earning in M Plus this week are the same. The item level rewards that you are getting out of your Great Vault next week are also the same. It's a Season 1 Great Vault that you'll be opening at the start of next week. But the Keystone Master achievement is actually still earnable. So if you would like Shadowlands Season 1 Keystone Master, if you want this cool mount that somebody over here has, this thing, then that is something you can still get this week. I was mistaken last week when I said last week was the last week to do it. It's in fact this week. So if you want to go and grab that, now is your actual last chance to do so. Anyways, I hope this video has cleared up a little bit about the state of Mythic Plus this week. As we learn more about where the Heroic Week item level cap might be and how many key levels our key will degrade going into Heroic Week, I will put a pinned comment if there's posts about that. I won't make a new video about it or anything, so just check the pinned comment. And if there's, if Blizzard makes a communication about either of those things, I'll put it below. Otherwise, they've followed a pretty similar formula within a couple of key levels or item levels for the past few patches, so it's fairly predictable. Anyways, hope you liked the video. Check out my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/Ratnos. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.